Hey everybody, it's Odd Dustin. Welcome back into the Mosh Pit. We're talking about Grime again. We got some more information. We've got a developer interview with Destructoid. The devs also released a demo on Steam as part of the Steam Next and Summer Games Fest. And I was able to download it, and I played through it twice now. I've done two different builds. One I went with the Strength build, next is a Dex build. And I also have some secrets and stuff that I've found within the game and stuff that I still haven't been able to unlock due to a skill gap that I'm trying to overcome. But I wanted to go over some of this stuff. I will break down the demo and what my thoughts on that are and some of the cool features that I thought the game has in that demo in a different video. In this one, we're going to talk more about the devs interview and some new information that I don't think we were quite aware of up until this point. So, yeah, let's get into it. The Destructoid article starts off by letting you know that there is a demo. Unfortunately, the demo was limited only from June 14th to the 22nd, 2021. So if you're watching this after the fact and you weren't able to get into it, I'm sorry. It was a pretty awesome little demo. If it is before that, I'll put a link in the comments below to their Steam page. You can go download the demo if you have a PC that can run it. A pretty awesome little demo. I enjoyed it quite a bit. But as part of this article, they also talk to Yarden Weisbrot, who is the game director, and get a little bit more information on where the black hole head came from and some progression stuff and what to expect from difficulty, and also a surprising bit of information here. So Destructoid started asking about world building and having weirdness for the sake of weirdness. And he said, personally, I don't really think there is such a thing as too weird, which is really good to hear because neither do I. I love the weird. Give me all the bizarre stuff. I mean, as long as there's a method to the madness and everything is consistent and abides by the rules of the world that they've been set up, I think you can do anything, which I think is right. I think when you start adding weird stuff in there that doesn't make any sense, then the game's like, well, what the hell? What is that? Why is that even in here? But if you make it all make sense, you put in some piece of lore. I mean, really, you could do anything bizarre and then write lore that makes it make sense. There you go. Don't force it. He says it should be something that would make sense to have organically been born from the logic of the world rather than something that could end up feeling forced for the sake of reaction, which is exactly right. You know, all of a sudden you don't want just some thing to pop up to people to go, oh, what the hell? You should be like, what the hell? And then read about it and go, oh my God, they did that. And this happened to what thing? My God, that kind of stuff, which I'm digging it. That's a good attitude to take when it comes to world building. The next, they asked about what the origins of the black hole for a head and the gameplay options for the black hole being a parry technique. And I like here his his first little bit here. It says, this being our first game, we've taken Salt and Sanctuary as our main reference for the basics of combat and movement, which that was a surprise to me. Not that they took Salt and Sanctuary, but that is one of my favorite games. And this is like the first PlayStation Platinum that I ever got. And I've been a PlayStation holder since PlayStation 1. And I just have never really been interested in platinuming games. And Salt and Sanctuary, that was one that I was so interested in it. And I played through it 3 or 4 times and then ended up buying it on PC even. But they wanted to make this game and they didn't have a whole lot of experience. So he says, due to my lack of experience, I was terrified about deviating from what other more successful and more experienced developers had made. And it's a great game, and I was certain we couldn't surpass it from a gameplay perspective, so I stuck with Salt and Sanctuary as a guide. So they were basically looking at Salt and Sanctuary as their platforming Dark Souls starter point, and then they were going to build off of that kind of thing. And in Salt and Sanctuary, I don't believe there's parrying in the first one. It's just a lot of hitting and dodging. I don't remember there being a lot of parry. Now, I don't use parry that much because I'm not great at it, but this game I think is going to make me, Grime's going to make me learn. So after he plays Salt and Sanctuary, he starts building the game. He actually went and played Bloodborne, which he hadn't played. It was the only Souls game that he hadn't played yet. And then Sekiro came out. This is all during development. And Sekiro is big on the parrying and really benefiting a lot if you get a parry in there right. You can really do some good damage for Sekiro if you get the guys down. So they started saying, hey, you know what, maybe we could do this. Maybe we could add parrying in as part of our mechanic. And their doodle of their main character having a black hole head that can kind of suck the energy away from their opponents started to really make sense at that point in development. Next, Destructoid asked about the weapons, and he said there's a large variety of weapons in Grime, and each one is unique. Some general movesets are shared between weapons, but all the weapons have their own special attack, which, having played through the demo, there are 4 different weapons that I've found. There might be another one in this secret area that I'm still trying to get to, but there's 4 main weapons that you can find just getting through the game into all the different little areas. And there's a kind of a mid-tier, doesn't have a real benefit, kind of even-keeled axe. There is another blade that shoots fingers out that is more of a dex weapon. And then there's one that's a real dex weapon that's a dual blades. And then there's this big hammer that is a strength-based heavy hitter weapon. It's very slow. So in the demo, they gave 4 different options, all of which are the main kind of playstyles that I'm aware of when it comes to weapon builds. And I've tried out strength and I've tried out heavy. Now, there are one for the parrying mechanic where you can put skills into that. And then some weapons will probably be related to that, because he says there's also some unique weapons like lanterns, which are unique to resonance builds. So resonance is the damage and benefits you get from doing your parrying. And I think there wasn't a parrying resonance build weapon that I found that could be up in that bonus little area. But the fact that they're going to have weapons that you could do a full resonance build on, where your main mechanic of parrying becomes also your main damage, is pretty interesting. And, you know, when you have a small team like they have, you're not going to expect unique animations for every single weapon if they want to add a lot of weapons. So you're going to have some that have a basic swipe and smash ability, but they are animating completely unique sets for each weapon for the special. So once you hit the heavy attack, those are all going to look different, which is super cool and kind of exciting to figure out. Like, oh, you find a new weapon, you're like, wow, what's this one going to look like, you know? And so far, from what I've seen in the demo, the weapons are pretty bizarre. They are not your typical, like, oh, the, you know, heavy sword or, you know, rapier, you know, or sickle. I mean, they might look a little similar to that, but they're kind of this world, a little disgusting, a little bizarre. The one shoots fingers off of it, so it's not just your typical weapons, which I also really love. Now, the next question is on how character progression works, and he says some elements of progression were also inspired by Sekiro. I really liked how you could discover tablets that grant you new talent trees, and the fact that I could have missed them, and the mystery of what talents I have found could still find, served as a core for the hunt trait system. So the hunt and trait system is really interesting. So when you're parrying in this game, you are gathering information about the beast that you just parried, and eventually you can grab some of their traits. So as an example, for the hand, when you parry the hand enough times, you can get a benefit, or when you parry something, you get a little bit more of your stamina back. And as you upgrade that by doing more damage and hunting things, you get these hunt points that you can upgrade those traits. So you can start off with like a low amount of stamina that you get back from a parry. But as you go out into the world and do these hunts where you're finding something that you can kill once and then it's gone forever, and you get a hunt point for that, you get like this little, like a hunt gem. Like, you've hunted a prey and now you have this thing. You can take that back and upgrade these talents and traits to get them even more powerful, to where if you parry something, you possibly could restore, you know, close to 100% of your stamina with a parry, which is huge for battle. If you can just hit, parry, hit, and just keep going, that's going to be really huge when it comes to doing damage, especially on bosses. Yeah, so it says traits can be upgraded and can usually be upgraded up to 6 times. In order to level up your traits, you need to get hunt points, which are typically dropped from challenging enemies that do not respawn upon defeat. So that's another thing, too, is that when you do level up a trait and you pop one of these hunt points into it, they are there permanently. The only way to get rid of them is to use a little orb that will let you kind of respec, but even that is limited in the world. So there's definitely a big chance for multiple playthroughs and different ways to do things and different traits to level up, because so far, just within the demo, I ended up getting, I think, like 5 or 6 traits from enemies that I was parrying. And you have to parry them about 5 or 6 times before you get one of their traits popping up into your menu. But that's a really, really cool addition to this formula. Now, on the difficulty question, I didn't feel like it was any more difficult than any other Souls game. In fact, it's fairly approachable in the early levels for demo. I'm sure it's going to get harder. But they say Grime is definitely more challenging than most games, though we've had plenty of testers unfamiliar with Souls games or really difficult games in general, and they ended up finishing the game. I would say the bosses will probably be the hardest part, especially near the end of the game. So it's good to hear that there's an upswing. It also is good to hear that people that are testing the game have finished it. There have been a few hard games, platformers especially, that I've tried to play through, and I just get to a point midway through where I'm like, okay, I can't do all this platforming that you're wanting me to do and all these attacks, and my skills and my ability to overcome them have failed me. So it's good to hear that their playtesters are finishing the game, that they're not making it so kicking the nuts hard that you can't finish it. But it says here you can definitely garner a lot of additional power from leveling, investing in traits, and hunting down the most challenging prey available. So a lot of that stuff is optional. You do not have to fight. You could just run through the demo, skip all the hard bosses or enemies. You could actually run right to the boss, probably not even kill or fight hardly anybody, except for the ones that are blocking your way, and make it directly to the boss and still be able to finish the game. That will probably be something that you'll see speedrunners do. So, but I think some of the fun is getting those extra powers, and if you want those extra powers, you're going to have to do those hunts to get those traits and upgrade yourself to the point where you are kind of OP. I'm sure that there's going to be some builds where I put all my points into this and I put all my points into that, and oh my god, I broke the game because it's so easy now. I'm looking forward to that. And the last thing in this article and interview, they talk about the bestiary. Now, I am one who will read some of the bestiary stuff. Eventually, if it's too large, it will just be overwhelming, and I don't care enough about it. It depends on the game. So if there's good lore in there and that really explains the world or explains a creature's story, then I will read through that. But if it's just, oh, that's this kind of enemy and it does these things, I'll skip through that. Like Returnal's a good recent game that had a pretty extensive bestiary, and I started trying to read through some of that, but it's so much that they put in there that it was a little bit taxing. In the small amount of enemies that you face in the demo, though, I was able to look through the bestiary. It was easy to traverse. I think the menu at this point could use a little bit of work just to fine tune some things, but nothing huge. But the bestiary itself was very small, limited amount of reading. It wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't like massive paragraphs worth of lore on these things, but there was enough of it in there that gives you a little bit of idea what it is, why it is, and a little quote, which I thought was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. But Yarden says, honestly, I didn't want to do one in the beginning. He was like, we're only 5 people for the majority of the development, and with so little manpower to spare and no one having any experience with creating UI or writing, I preferred to try to avoid these 2 things as much as possible, since I believe it would be better not to have it than it to be subpar, which is pretty correct. I mean, really, you don't want to force something that your team's not good at. But he read a lot of comments on Reddit, and people really like bestiaries, and it came up quite a bit. So they said, you know what, maybe we can do it. And it ended up being a lot more work than he thought. But I think it looks pretty good, and hopefully you guys will appreciate it when you get a chance to play it and read through some of that stuff. So like I said, I will have a separate video to kind of break down the demo and my thoughts on it. I might do a couple of videos on that to go over certain things, like this one that goes over the weapons and the movesets, one that kind of goes over some of the the collectibles and things like that you can find within the demo. Depends on how much you guys are interested in something like that. Let me know in the comments below what kind of video you'd want to see for Grime. I'm really enjoying it so far, and I can't wait to see it when it comes out in its full glory. If you had a chance to play the demo, let me know what you thought down in the comments below. And if you like this video, throw a like on there. If you haven't already, hit subscribe so you can see when I put out new videos on Grime and other videos for games that I cover on this channel. And I will see you in the next video.